I think it needs to be slightly wider, it needs to be longer. It's around about 30 times safer going by air than going by road, right? So we kill over 1,000 people on the roads every year. And if local people can fly, they're going to be safer for a start.
And Dick, our tourism figures were down 5%, a bit over on South Coast and up almost every other region in New South Wales.
Yeah. You know, like John knows that I'm not for a big Australia of 100 million or 200 million that he wants.
Tourism, mate.
Yeah, but I do want, I want to have viable communities and I want to have people employed. And when I was young, you'd go out to Bankstown Airport and it was thriving. I think there were 17 flying schools. There's now about 3. And all those jobs, there's a young person there, there's jobs that are available that won't be available. You could employ, yes, you can have an industrial area here and expand that, which is important, but to have something located around an aerodrome when I saw someone talking about Williamtown, it's a military airfield. They're hostile to business.
With restrictions.
Absolutely, there's restrictions, they're hostile to business. Surely we must be able to fit in this area between Sydney and Newcastle a viable aerodrome. And if you're worried about living right underneath the approach path of an aerodrome, do what I did, move a bit further away. Because if you then stop every aerodrome, I think you affect not our generation, but the younger generation. They don't have jobs. I was going to mention, if ever we have a war, we don't want to have a war, but you need people to be trained in aviation. And at the moment we've got to a point where that hardly exists. And other than a tiny air force, and obviously they train, they're contracting lots more out now. And as I mentioned, you can't get things serviced here, it has to go back to the United States. Imagine if you want the rescue helicopter to come up and rescue someone who's had been in a bad car crash, and you hear, oh no, the electronics, the stability system went bung and we can't fix it in Australia, got it sent to the United States. That's just very serious.
Well, one of the other things that we've certainly been talking to people is the RFS with some of their
absolutely,
aviation.
Fire. Well, I can tell you now, most of the firefighting helicopters are privately run helicopters that need maintenance. They need parts, and you get below that efficiencies of scale, size, and you end up destroying the industry. You won't have those people available. So you'll have a fire and they'll say, where are the rescue helicopters? They're not here. Where are the firefighting helicopters? They're not here because the organisations found they couldn't get them serviced. Or there was no money, because you need to have a firefighting helicopter, needs to be doing charter and other work. It just can't exist on once or twice a year rescuing people from fires or putting out fires. And so there needs to be a viable industry. And I just think this is an ideal place. I've seen this airport over the years. I've thought, gee, what a waste to have it so tiny, and you've only got a small flying club here. I applied to put a hangar here years ago, and I got so much, this is 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, so what's happened recently is
so much obstruction to it, I didn't put it in.
Council actually has taken over direct operation of the airport only in the last few months.
Right.
We've spent a bit over $1 million basically resurfacing the existing runway, to make it safer and better for more aircraft. But this is
it's a balance. It needs to be a bit longer. I've heard, the environmentalists will say anything you do is going to affect the secret gecko and so forth, but it has to be a balance. Every environmentalist who drives here comes up a great big highway that's cut across creeks and swamps and everything.
That's right.
But then they tend to say, oh, we're here now, you mustn't do anything else. And to me, I just looked as I came in, I'm absolutely positive the aerodrome could be extended, it could be made wider with minimal effect.
It's 10 metres wider, and it needs to be made 5 metres longer.
Absolutely. It's not a great change. And if you had some commuter operations here, I think that would be fantastic. And anyone would rather go by air than drive, surely.
Yeah.
I just wondered whether 10 metres and 5 metres might be just a mistake.
Well, no.
All we did deliberately was resurface what was here.
Made it so.
No, you made it longer because we couldn't fly here at all.
Well, no, it was already there. It was like an overrun, so we've just formalised.
Now, it looks to me to be the same as it was, but if you want to have a viable airport that's safer for everyone, it needs to be a bit wider, right? Which is very simple. My country strip and my property is wider than this. I think it's 15 metres wide, which can take small commuter aircraft, and it would be safer to be a bit longer. Looking down there, it can be made longer without completely destroying the environment. And every environmentalist who's built a house in the area, you don't know how many insect species they've destroyed in building that house because they're tiny, you don't know. And so we all have an effect. It's a matter of balance. And I can't see why we can't have an airport between Sydney and Newcastle. It just doesn't seem logical. Will it have an effect? Of course it will have an effect. Will that effect be so great that you shouldn't build it? I don't agree with that. I am pro-aviation because I see an industry that could employ thousands of Australians being destroyed completely unnecessarily. And I'd love to see businesses here employing people locally. It'd just be fantastic.
Well, that's our plan.
Well, it's going to be hard because you will find that people will object. But
well, I have to say, in terms of what we've done here, there has been effectively no level of objection.
Right.
There's one, objector left from last century, but he's the only one. This work here has got a tick from all the residents, no problem at all. And if we just have to make it a little wider, that's already had this discussion with Singo. We're certainly happy to do that.
I'd make it a bit wider and a bit longer, believe it or not, because it just makes it better.
There are issues about making it longer, which I'm sure you're aware of. We'll have to get the state government permission if we want to go down that track.
Why can't you do that? What doesn't the state government want people employed?
Well, you need to advocate, Dick, to the state government, then John.
Well, I would do, because to me, I believe it should be viable. And if it was going to completely destroy, it's like Lord Howe Island, the people who said Lord Howe Island would be destroyed. It's now one of the top World Heritage areas in the world with its runway that cuts right across the middle of the island. But it's still the most wonderful, fantastic place. And all the environmentalists who go out there and weed and all the rest of it, they actually fly in on the runway that they objected to. And the same will happen here.
It's about 980 or something like that, I
think,
it
is. It's very short. It would be better to be longer, but the Dash 8s which go there could come here very satisfactorily. And it has very bad wind problems at Lord Howe Island. You don't have that here.
No.
And so Dash 8 fly people from here from Coolangatta and Brisbane, Melbourne.
Yeah, could do.
But they fly out of Brisbane occasionally to Brisbane. Out of Williamstown to Brisbane.
Absolutely, and they fly from Brisbane to Lord Howe Island, which is 430 miles. They fly from Lord Howe to here. They have to have an alternate, mainland alternate, so they need very big range, and those aircraft could operate here quite satisfactorily. But I suppose it depends on what balance you look for, and I'd much rather see, rather than you going high rise and having 2 million people living here, I'd much rather see a viable airport and jobs available without having to have hundreds of millions of people in Australia. I think there's a sweet point, and I'm not convinced.
No, we're certainly hoping to, and John's going to work, and you're going to work for us to try and get that Dash 8 type aircraft operating here.
Good,
and we'll certainly widen the runway to enable that to operate from here.
30 times safer if you go by air than going on the roads. And I know the roads are improving, but very much better to go by air. And that's why all of my greenie friends all fly everywhere. Rightio, we're going to go and have a look. Thank you. Are we going by vehicle or?